On today's show, let's look ahead to training camp and give you some early storylines to look out for. Let's dive in.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
The music you heard on the way in is from our friends at Astro Radio. I'm Chris Manning. That is Evan Dammarell. I want to tell you that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment move more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn right now to get started. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. All right. Preseason look ahead, training camp look ahead. The Cavs made some announcements that they have signed Sharife Cooper, Pete Nance, and Justin Powell to training camp deals. Sharife Cooper was with the Cleveland Chargers ton last year, was an all G League second team guy. Pete Nance obviously is the younger brother of Larry Nance Jr., was on the Cavs Summer League team, spent a year in North Carolina after playing 4 seasons at Northwestern, and then Powell is a 6'6" wing who played at Washington State the last year of his college career, was on the Miami Heat Summer League team. There were some erroneous reporting earlier in the summer that he had signed an Exhibit 10 deal with Cleveland. Michael Scotto from Hoops Hype had the tweet then yesterday on the 12th that he had signed with Cleveland. His agency signed with Cleveland. I think indications are that that's an Exhibit 10 deal. They're not going to use an extra roster spot on him. He's an all good ending up with the Cleveland Charge in the G League, if not on a two-way, but in this system nonetheless in some way. Evan, those 3 names, who intrigues you the most?
Well, I will say who doesn't intrigue me the most, and this is no disrespect. Like, Sharife Cooper is a guy we know pretty well at this point. He's been on a 2-way contract with the Cavs in the past. He's played quite a bit with the Charge. He's at least bounced back from like a historically bad summer league during his last moments with the Atlanta Hawks, and I'm happy for him, but I just don't see his path to becoming like a backup point guard for the Cavs. But in terms of just the new faces, I think it's Pete Nance, just because I think he has maybe a bit of a cleaner, quote unquote, path to playing in the NBA or maybe the Cavs, where he doesn't give you the defensive upside that his brother gave you. He doesn't have what his brother has, and he certainly wants to try and distance himself from his brother and his dad. And I think that's just like indicative of having family in the NBA. Is just like you're going to constant comparisons of that. But like what Pete Nance has that maybe Larry didn't have coming out of college, or at least early into his NBA career, at least what his dad didn't have, is 3-point shooting. And you saw a little bit of it in summer league play. I wonder if the Cavs trying to like maybe work some wrinkles when he does get minutes during the preseason, or even if he's under Mike Garrity, whoever ends up coaching the Charge in the grand scheme of things. I know Gary's running the tryouts for the Charge on Saturday before we record this, and so it'll be interesting to see like how do the Cavs want to utilize him. But like you said, like these are Exhibit 10 deals for these new faces. Release, they're going to be within the Charge and the Cavs ecosystem. They're going to maybe practice with the team whenever they can too. But he's a guy, at least to me, that intrigues me because he could be like a stretchier 4 that is the antithesis of what Lamar Stevens was as a player in terms of just like no, maybe a little bit of defense, but more like shooting upside, versus like Stevens was like a ton of defense and a very minimal shooting upside. What about you?
I think Nance is a fair option. I think like the size, the potential stretchiness from the forward spot is not a wrong inclination. But I am who I am, and even though like there's some parts of in doing some Justin Powell watching and reading some scouting reports on him and stuff, there's some parts of his game that I'm like a little perplexed by, and I understand why he went undrafted. Like if you go undrafted, there's a reason it happens. It's not like like there are legitimate reasons that happens more often, like 99.9% of the time, not 100% of the time. But he's a 6'6" wing who is a confident shooter who has the frame at 6'6", a little south of 200, that I think you can work with. I don't know if this is someone that will work out. I mean, the hit rate on any of these guys working out is really low. There's just no way around that. Whether it's Pete Nance, anyone, or Amani Bates, or any of these guys, like the hit rate in these guys is going to be low. Like you're not, if these were sure things, we would talk about the draft differently, and history would tell us something different. But Powell, at least, is someone that is like has the framework of what you want as an NBA wing. And while it's nice, it's nice to pay for Max Strus when you really need him one summer. I think continuing to try to develop someone to try and maybe be your own version of what Miami got at Max Strus and get that player really cheap and in-house is a smart thing to do. So even if I don't really have a ton of confidence that guy's going to pop, I like the bet on a 6'6" wing who's willing and able to shoot it.
Well, we'll look at it this way. A 6'6" wing that's willing and able to shoot it is obviously like something a team like the Cavs or any NBA team needs, but like in the lens of the Cavs, it fits the mold of what you hope Dylan Windler could have been as a player. And now you at least have the luxury of, instead of just like using a roster spot and sending Windler down to the G League to play with the Charge and show what he has, you have this guy on likely a deal with the Charge after the Exhibit 10 deal expires, just because that's how it works. And you allow him to naturally just transition over to being a Charge player. And then you take the long observation. Like you understand what he has as a player. Maybe he follows like a Sam Merrill path where the Cavs use their last remaining roster spot, if it's still open, to sign him to a Kobe Helpin special or quote unquote guaranteed deal to like get a better understanding of what he is within playing with like within the Cavs ecosystem rather than the Charge ecosystem. And like there's a lot of ways the Cavs can pursue this, but you and I have always been big advocates of this. Like the Cavs utilizing the Charge to develop guys that could be back end rotation talent. Maybe they pop like Max Strus does from his time with DePaul and the Bulls to the Heat to now with the Cavs, or the Cavs at least get like another shooter that they've developed in house and could be maybe a bit of a dude for them long term.
Okay, these three guys versus Bates, Craig Porter Jr., Isaiah Mobley. Who of the guys we're likely to see with the Charge this season are you most intrigued by as a legit NBA prospect?
I mean, there's always going to be intrigue with Bates because he was such a highly touted prospect coming out of high school, and his path is unconventional, and like you are curious to see if he does pan out, and like you are rooting to see him pan out, of course, just because like it's a kid who had the weight of the world on his shoulders. But like Craig Porter Jr. scratches an itch for me, and I like the fact that like he is a natural playmaker through his defensive upside is always intriguing to me. And the fact that like there could be a path to him being like a bench guard for the Cavs long term. Like he at least said as much during his very limited media availability before they headed out to Vegas to win the Summer League championship. And he said, at least like in conversations with JB Bickerstaff and Kobe Altman, like the vision for him is to be a guy that slots behind Darius and Donovan, can kind of be like that third or maybe fourth guard, depending on where Karis LeVert slots into in the rotation. And like if he didn't seem overwhelmed by the moment in Summer League, and I'm intrigued to see how he maybe pops during training camp, during preseason, and then obviously when he translates to his time at the Charge. Like, does this continue? Like, is this a dude that can kind of just become like a quality bench guard for the Cavs? Like that's always just been a position of need for me when like it became clear Darius Garland is like the quote unquote franchise point guard for the Cavs, or not quote unquote, he is the franchise point guard for the Cavs. But like you need to address the need for a backup. If you're able to develop one in house, it's younger than can kind of match your timeline like that. That's super ideal. And if Porter pops sooner, you're ahead of schedule.
I'm gonna go. Isaiah Mobley what?
I was gonna say, why don't you tell him after the ad break?
No, we have other things to do. I think it's Isaiah Mobley. I think I just have seen more with him where I kind of believe it, but I am just sort of a show me what you've actually done kind of person at this point. Like show me what you've actually produced at this level before I go all in, all goo goo gaga, which I can't believe I just said, on potential. Coming up next, so let's move on. Who's going to start at the 3? That is one of the, if there's anything that resembles a position battle for the Cavs at training camp, that's it. And that might not even be one, would be my guess. So we'll talk about that coming up next. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready for the NFL season that has now started with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday tickets from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props and more. If you're listening to this, you're a Cavs fan, they have NBA futures in there now, over under win totals, awards futures, title odds, all of that stuff if you're interested. So right now, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. That's FanDuel, official partner of the NFL, and again, the official sportsbook of Locked On. All right, starting three. Let's talk about it. Okay. It's Max Strus, right?
Yeah, I mean, on paper, written in pencil, it's Max Strus, unless Isaac Okoro really shows us something, just because on paper last year in pencil, it was Isaac Okoro for me, but Strus is the dude that can provide the spacing, or at least that third safety valve the Cavs need if Mitchell or Garland get flummoxed, to at least give the spacing required for Mobley or Allen to operate within the interior, or any of the players really to operate within the interior. And like Strus he's that dude. Like I firmly believe like he slots in very nicely as the starting three for the Cavs. Like I don't think you and I are in disagreement on that.
I think it's the shooting. I mean, I think it's the fit to not need to be another ball handler. I think you have defensive concerns, but I think that's what Evan Mobley and Jared Allen are for. All right, let's say he's the favorite. Let's say he'll be the minus in the terms if we were gonna put betting odds in this. Mm-hmm. Who would you have as the closest competitor to him? Like let's say plus 150, something that's like a little bit of value if you're betting on it, but definitely still a little. Like not the likeliest thing. It's a plus 150, plus 200. Who would you have as in second place in this race if you're guessing today?
I would say it's Caris LeVert, just based on how the postseason ended and how JB really wants to make a starting five of Garland, Mitchell, LeVert, Mobley, and Allen function. But I'm going to instead toss it up to Isaac Okoro, because it's the devil you know versus the devil you don't. You are banking a lot on Evan Mobley taking that leap, Garland as well, and you think you could maybe get a little bit of juice out of Isaac Okoro taking a leap in terms of his development too, but also maybe mitigate the spacing concerns and instead lean on the fact that like he is Cleveland's best point of attack defender and something the Cavs like certainly could use a lot of heading into just start games. But like you said, it's Strus, and I think it's Okoro after him in terms of just like the race, and that's why I said Strus is in pencil, but like it can become pen pretty quickly if like Okoro doesn't show that pop from 3-point land.
LeVert, I think, has to be second, just because I think you kind of know what he is in that way, right? Like I think we'll talk about Okoro next. He might be third, just because I just can't imagine Niang's like really in this conversation.
No,
like I just does. He's never played that. It doesn't totally make sense to me. With LeVert, it's like, okay, do you want another ball handler on the floor who did shoot well from three last year, who at least will try on defense, even if he's not the lockdown defender you want, who can be kind of a ball handling relief to your three guys?
Mm-hmm.
I would get that logic, but I think I think we kind of saw what that was last year, and while it was effective and those lineups were good and like the team won a lot of games, I just running it back when you went out and spent all the money on Strus seems like a mistake. And now look, maybe Strus gets hurt, and you see some times where LeVert starts, or like LeVert overwhelms in training camp and preseason, Strus struggles, and they go that route. Maybe there's defensive reasons that JB prefers LeVert over Strus. I don't know. I just think if you're going to do this, and if you've spent that money, LeVert being the reason you don't go with Strus would be kind of surprising to me.
I agree with that. And also, I'm also just of the camp that LeVert is best as like the sixth man for the Cavs, just the first guard / forward swing man, whatever you want to call him, off the bench, and let him find a rhythm with the bench unit against opposing bench players versus him kind of being the fourth or fifth option on offense in times in the starting lineup. It just really muddles up the offensive flow. But okay, so we're somewhat in disagreement. I think LeVert then is my third pick then, since Okoro is my second. Like, who do you have between Okoro and let's just say Dean Wade as like as the third horse in this race? Because the shooting question is a fair one.
Yeah, I just can't go to Okoro. I am who I am. I can't do it.
That's why I'm surprised you didn't pick him second. So
I think he just has like a lot to prove. Look, one of the things that here's a teaser for an episode we have coming out next week, which is going to be things we didn't talk about enough last season.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't get asked about this, and I think I'm going to ask this on media day. So Evan, I'm claiming this question. Isaac Okoro at the end of the regular season hit a game-winning shot in Brooklyn. That is the exact kind of shot that teams just forgot that he hit, and then he immediately misses time with injury. What was lost when he had to miss time after that shot? Because there was literally any momentum that Okoro could have had. This big moment that felt to me like a really big moment is then just gone.
Yeah.
That might be nothing, but he hit the shot, the exact shot you want him to hit in a high-pressure situation, and then it was like, oh, he doesn't get to follow it up and like build on that directly.
The building on a thing is the most important thing. When just like looking at it from that lens, is that was a confidence booster because Isaac Okoro was getting dogged left and right just by everyone. Like, oh, he's not bouncing or he's not popping in your three. The shot isn't there. Noah's Ark can't even keep him afloat. Like, there's just so many issues and concerns when it comes to Okoro's shot that, like, in that moment, you're like you said, it's a high pressure moment. It's a game winning shot. It's the most important shot of his career. I remember I asked him about it because I was at that game in Brooklyn covering it for Right Down Euclid. He's just like, it's my first game winner professionally. He's like, I hit a few in the preseason, whatever, but like those technically don't count, even though I think they should, is what he joked. But like Okoro was backing up like a lot of the trash and kind of talked and hyping himself up. Or like in the past, he said like, I'm the best. He's like, I'm one of the best defensive players in the NBA, or like I'm one of the best point of attack defenders in the NBA. But like offensively, like people are like, oh, do you have any concerns? He's like, no, I know what I can be. I let my game come to itself. And it's in that moment where like, so you see Karis LeVert like kick it to Isaac Okoro, and he gave the Cavs coaching staff the benefit of the doubt. Okoro did, and his teammates the benefit of the doubt that he was able to hit that 3-pointer and play out the fact that like Brooklyn's defense wasn't respecting him out there, and something he told me that doesn't bother him that much. But like, it's just in those exact moments that you think like, okay, yeah, this is a momentum builder. This is a building block moment for the Cavs. This is something that they can certainly do and build upon so that they can ensure like Okoro has like confidence heading into the postseason and has like comfort and familiarity heading into the postseason, just like the remainder of the regular season. And then he has those knee issues against Houston not soon after, and it really just killed all that momentum. And I think that was a bit of a flashpoint for just like what Isaac Okoro can be as the Cat for like at least a starting three or just like a wing player for the Cavs, because if he has that confidence in his shot, it does probably make quite a bit of difference for him.
Is there a case for Dean Wade?
Just because the Cavs made playing big like a weird thing that ended up conveying, I think there is a case. It's a confidence thing, not in the same lens or vein as Okoro, but like Wade's shot it abandoned him, or he abandoned it entirely after the shoulder injury happened. But if the Cavs wanted to go bigger and maybe have a guy that can at least provide pass defense forward funnels to Mobley and Allen, like, yeah, I think there's a case. But if you're looking at the grand scheme of this Cavs thing in terms of just like what alarms you need to raise, like if Dean Wade is ahead of Isaac Okoro on the rotation, there's probably more reason to be concerned, just because like that really means Okoro's shot didn't convey, because like I would take Okoro's semi-passable shooting and like superb defense versus what Wade provides you.
Yeah, I think Wade like is going to see time at the three. I am curious to see like who he pairs well with, and if he can, and what his step forward could look like. I think there's a way that could work, which is kind of interesting, I should say. I'm curious to see how much he plays the 3 versus the 4 in the preseason. I think will tell us a lot. And look, and we're gonna know early like what the first inclination is. Like, does Okoro play real minutes in the preseason? Does he get? Is it clear that he's at the end? You know, he is someone that I would say, like, remember, they have an open roster spot that they're going to keep open. If they were to like try to aggregate salaries on the fringe of the roster to trade for a veteran, like, he would be one you conceivably could use if he's not in the rotation. So there's a lot kind of at stake. All right, coming up next, last thing we're going to talk about today, backup point guard. It's kind of an unavoidable and comfortable topic, but let's talk about who could maybe win that role. I think we'll maybe talk a little about Caris LeVert there again. Today's episode is brought to you by Jase Medical. You don't want to be unprepared, and that's where the Jase case comes in. The Jase case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. All it takes to get a Jase case is to fill out a simple online form, and in some cases, jump on a quick call with one of our board-certified physicians. Get ongoing care from their physicians. For any treatment-related questions, doctor-created, doctor-recommended. They have a customer, Frank, that says, quote, easy as 1, 2, 3, and just in time. I received our package the same day I got a sinus infection and my doctor was out of town. No appointments for days. Thank goodness it arrived. End quote. Jase Medical is simple. You go online, you fill out a form, and then you get prescription life-saving medications right to your door. The Jase case gives you peace of mind so you're not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jase Medical makes sure you have that medication in hand. Save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with a Jase Medical plus an additional $20 off by using our code LOCKEDON, all one word, all caps, at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. All right. Backup point guard Ricky Rubio is Lord.
I am in fact trying out for backup point for the Cavs. I don't think I'll get far, folks, but I'll try my best.
It's going to get dunked on. It's going to be uncomfortable for everybody.
It's not the first time. Larry Nance dunked on me in high school, so
tough. Backup point guard. Scale of 1 to 10. If you're Cleveland right now, there's uncertainty about Ricky Rubio, the guys you have in the house, how much of concern is that spot for you?
Oh, gosh. It's a 3 just because you have Garland, Mitchell, that LeVert can play those minutes. And I think Ty Jerome can be a guy that can be your 4th guard. Like I talked about Craig Porter Jr. in segment 1. Like you're hoping he can be that guy, not this upcoming season, but the following season. But I'm not overly concerned just because the Cavs have a pretty healthy stable of guards ahead of Rubio to begin with. Like we were talking about like whether or not Okoro plays in the preseason. Like there's also a path where like Rubio may not have played if like JB's just trying to keep like an honest rotation of like what he plays opening night or just during the regular season. Like there's a path where Rubio doesn't crack the rotation most nights either. So like I'm not overly concerned about it. How about you?
I would be like a 3 or 4. I think you're right that those minutes are not, they can be covered pretty easily. I think those minutes are in a situation where Rubio wasn't so good last year and in the playoffs particularly that I would be that convinced that he's going to be good next year. I think that was a concern anyway. I think if you were going to like look at him and put a question mark by Ricky Rubio in 2023, 2024, I think that's more than that. That's valid. That's a real thing. Where that I think that leaves you is, okay, how do you, who is the backup creator? I think LeVert will do some of that. I think there's going to be an onus on Mitchell to be some of that. I don't think that's exactly what Jerome's game is. So I think you are kind of lacking that traditional backup point. And if I'm them, I almost want to be like, hey, let's like lean into Mitchell. Let's lean into LeVert, who guys are already going to play. And let's put another wing on the floor. Like, can you squeeze more Dean Wade minutes, more Okoro minutes? Maybe we end up having to go another direction. But I would be trying to squeeze more out of the guys you already have than would be trying to shepherd in a more traditional backup point in any way.
I think it's a valid point where Ty Jerome's not like a traditional 1-to-1 point guard. And I think that is where the concern is the Cavs don't have that traditional 1-to-1 like backup point behind Darius Garland, and that's where they kind of have to do playmaking or just like ball handling responsibilities by committee. And you have Donovan Mitchell, who's more than comfortable doing it. I think Karis LeVert certainly shines when he has the ball in his hand, and that's where Jerome, at least to me, were like, it's 10 minutes max a night. You're asking him to provide you some 3-point shooting, at least basic reads. I think he's equipped enough to give you that. Now, if you're asking him to play 25, 30 minutes a night, that might be a different recipe there. But I think the Cavs just have their like stable or at least rotation of guards, with like LeVert being that fringe 2-3 guy that kind of fluctuates between the spots. But I think they have enough to kind of keep it together, and at least not make it like a serious concern heading into the beginning of this regular season.
How do I want to ask this? Do you think LeVert is up like what we know about LeVert, what he is? Do you feel comfortable with LeVert being that kind of player? If it's not kind of scoring, if it's not the kind of thing we've seen him be really good at, or even that he did last year, do you think that on-ball creator stuff, which he did do more of last year, to be fair, do you think that is a good use for LeVert in what you're trying to get out of him?
Like you said, they used it a little bit last year. They showed it at times at least, and I think that's important that the coaching staff and his teammates show confidence and want to empower him to be like a bit of that creator, the guy who has the ball in his hands more often than not. But to go back to that Isaac Okoro 3-pointer against the Nets we talked about in segment 2, like LeVert very well could have ignored the obvious read, which was, okay, maybe not super obvious, but the more like clear read that like Okoro was like left wide open in the corner there, and he was able to take and make that shot. Like LeVert could have easily thrown something up the basket that would have been a little bit more garbage, and either he goes to the free throw line or it's just a missed shot, and the Cavs either have to play the foul game, they lose the game, or something else happens. But which in this scenario is win. But you just have to have faith in the fact that his maybe bad habits or like tunnel vision is another way to look at it. Like, don't flare up at the worst and most inopportune moments. And in those moments where you empower him to be your lead guard, maybe your primary ball handler in certain offensive sets and scenarios, like he is comfortable enough doing that, which I think he is, but it's just more so like the Cavs are comfortable with him doing it, which to your point, like they at least showed like a willingness to do so last season.
Yes. All right. Let us end there. I'm Chris Manning. That is Evan Dammarell. Back at you next week. Tune in for more Locked In Cavs. We're going to be talking about Evan Mobley and where he goes from there. Please tune in for that every day. Thanks again to Jake Stevens for his work on production. Have a great weekend, everybody.